Today's recipe calls for peppermint candies because we're making peppermint bark. This is an easy recipe, so let's get started. First, you're going to need some frustration, a rolling pin, and a sandwich bag. First thing I did was added my peppermint candies to my bag. I did 20 peppermint rounds, or the equivalent would be about 8 to 10 candy canes. Next, I'm going to take my rolling pin and just whack my peppermints. You don't want to crush them completely till they're powder because that would be too far and that's not what we're looking for. So keep crushing until you have little pieces. This is what our peppermint candy should look like. Beware, your bag does have a hole. The next thing we'll do is put our peppermint candies inside of a cup or a bowl, which either works for you. I did peppermint rounds just because it'd be cheaper than the candy canes, but it's really up to you, whatever your preference is. Now we'll set that aside. Now that our candy is crushed, we will get a brownie pan or a cake pan lined with wax paper or parchment paper. Either or will work. Your cut doesn't have to be perfect, we're just looking for a rough square, enough coverage for our pan, and we'll cut it down in the next step. Now that we got our parchment paper cut out, we're going to flip our pan over. We're going to cut down each side. We're going to cut right along the pan so we get a perfect square. We'll start on one side and move over and do the next side. Now that we got both sides cut, we'll flip our pan back over and throw our parchment paper inside. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it as smooth as possible. So keep messing with it till it's smooth. It should look something like this. Next, we'll get a pot of water, about a cup or two, on the burner, about medium heat. Start warming up to temper our chocolate. You're going to need a hand towel or an oven mitt for this. The bowl will get hot. You can use your bowl as a makeshift lid to help speed the process along. Now that our water is warm, we'll throw our bowl on top. Throw 12 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate in the bowl. Chocolate is made from cocoa beans, which come from the cacao tree. The trees are located in the deep tropic region of the Americas. You might have to adjust your heat as we go along because you don't want it to get too hot. This is when your towel comes in handy because your bowl does start to warm up. And we'll just take a rubber spatula and agitate our chocolate to help it melt. You can always cheat and do this process in the microwave, but I think tempering is a good skill to have. Your bowl creates a suction on your pot, and then if you have it too high, the water will start boiling out the sides, so that's why we turn it down. Just keep mixing, make sure to scrape down the sides because we don't want our chocolate to get hard. The higher percentage of cocoa that's in your chocolate will make it a better chocolate. The cocoa nibs aren't actually sweet, the sugar is what makes it sweet. Cocoa nibs are a little bit bitter, but it's a better chocolate. So just keep flipping the chocolate and scraping down the sides. The process does take a little while, but it's well worth it. You can see some of the water coming out in between the bowl and the pot because it's really hot. So we're going to lift our bowl up, release some of that heat, and go ahead and turn our heat down just a scotch. Now that our chocolate is smooth, we'll add half a teaspoon of peppermint extract. Give it some extra peppermint flavor. Go ahead and mix that really well, scrape down the sides, the bottom of our bowl to make sure everything's well mixed. Now that our chocolate is melted, we'll set that aside. And grab our lined pan. So make sure you have your towel because your bowl will be hot. Again, just a reminder. This is what our chocolate should look like. So go ahead and scrape your chocolate into your pan. I did get water in our pan by accident, so don't do what I did, and make sure to wipe the bottom of your bowl down. I was able to save it. I used a paper towel to soak up the water I could see. Water and chocolate is like oil and water, they just separate. So we'll go ahead and use our rubber spatula to spread our chocolate in our pan. So keep spreading your chocolate in your pan. You want an even layer, best as possible. This would be easier with an offset spatula if you had one, but if not, it's not a big deal. So just keep spreading it throughout your pan. It doesn't have to be perfect. So you want to get as much chocolate off of your spatula as possible, or you can keep some on there as a treat for yourself. So you want to take your pan and bang it on the countertop just to get rid of as many air bubbles as possible. You can move your pan around to move the chocolate to get the spots you couldn't reach. So I cheated and put the chocolate in the fridge so it's set up faster. You can leave it on the counter, either or will work. You just want your chocolate to be set. Now that our chocolate's set, we'll do the same process as before. So in our bowl, we'll add 12 ounces of semi-sweet white chocolate. Grab your towel and your spatula and just start agitating the chocolate to help it melt faster. If you like white chocolate, I hate to break it to you, white chocolate isn't real chocolate. It's made of cream, cocoa butter, powdered sugar, and vanilla extract. So basically just sugar and fats. Cocoa butter is just a byproduct of cocoa beans. It's just a pale yellow fat. I recommend getting a chocolate that has a high percentage of cocoa in it. Cocoa does have health benefits. It helps decrease inflammation after a hard workout. It improves your heart and brain health. And keep mixing until your chocolate is well melted. Like we did before, just scrape down the sides of your bowl and the bottom of your bowl to make sure that all of the chocolate gets melted. So now that our white chocolate is fully melted, we'll move the burner out of the way and grab our pan with the other chocolate. So make sure to use your towel or your pot holder, whichever you have, because remember, your bowl will be hot. Then make sure to wipe down the bottom of your bowl because we learned from the first time. Then we'll just pour our white chocolate over our chocolate. Make sure to scrape all the good stuff out. You don't want to leave anything behind. And we're going to want to move kind of quick because our white chocolate is obviously warm and it'll start melting the other chocolate. So use your spatula to spread it around. And you can also pick up your pan and shake the chocolate into the corners where you can't reach. And we're going to want to move kind of quick as well because our white chocolate will start to set. Then we'll grab our peppermint candies and just start to sprinkle it over our white chocolate. There's no such thing as too much peppermint candies because, of course, this is peppermint bark. There's no such thing as too much. So just spread it all around, try to get an even layer. So we'll spread our peppermint candies all across our chocolate, try to get an even layer as best as possible. You want each bite to have some peppermint candy in it. And you can lightly push down on your candy to make sure that it sets when it cools. This is what it should look like. Now we'll let it cool before we start cutting it. This is what our peppermint bark looks like after it's had time to set. For the next step, we're going to need a knife and a cutting board. We'll pick up our peppermint bark out of our pan and set it on our cutting board so we can start cutting it. There's really no set way on cutting your peppermint bark. You can cut it into squares, rectangles, or triangles, whatever works for you. I prefer it smaller pieces because it is rich, and if it's a small piece, you can get more out of your peppermint bark. Now that our peppermint bark is done, let's give it a try. Looks good. Looks pretty even and chocolate. It's good. Chocolate's nice and soft, but then you have the crunch from the peppermint. It's really not as sweet as I thought it was going to be. It's really good. Well, that's it for this video. It was a really simple one, not a whole lot to it by any means. This is a great gift to give out to the neighbors, to your friends, to family, really whoever, or just make it for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and find me on Instagram at TaylorMakes92, and we'll catch you on the next one.